So I'm going to go ahead now and play a new composition that's an original composition that I wrote. And I'm just going to play it without saying anything more than that. It's called Garden by the Sea. And then when I come back, I'm going to talk in detail about it. And you can hang out if you like, or you can take off. But this is a piece of music written originally for solo violin that I rearranged or arranged for solo violin and string orchestra. And let's pull up the video now so you can enjoy it. And like I said, when I come back after we play this, I'm going to go into depth about how it was written, what my influences were. I'm going to talk about play influences so you can hear all that in the piece of music and know that a piece of music takes on a life of its own. Yes, it does. Okay, here we go. Let's play Garden by the Sea. And this is footage that we filmed in a park near Austin, Texas, called Mary Moore Seawright Park. Mary Moore was an Austin environmentalist who was founder of the Audubon Society of Austin. She had a 400-acre farm, actually ranch, hay, Angus cattle, and she turned down multi-million-dollar deals to donate this land to the city of Austin. So the land you see here where I filmed this is thanks to Mary Moore Seawright. And by the way, I wrote another piece that's dedicated to Mary Moore called the Mary Moore Jig. Let me get this shared, and then we will play the video back. I'm so glad you're here. Love all of you. And this one, let me share this here. Okay, good. Here we go. Garden by the Sea video, new song by me.
Hey there! Thanks for watching that video, The Garden by the Sea. We actually filmed that in Austin, Texas at a beautiful 400-acre park near where we live. And if you loved it and you want to explore more music, there's several things you can do. You can like, subscribe, click the bell, make a comment, share, click send message below, or if you're interested in becoming a part of our community, go to here.stringsattached.org. Hope to see many of you over there. We have lots of music to share, and it would be great to make your acquaintance. Will you come join us? It would be really great. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video or somewhere out there. Take care.
All right, so that was the new video that was filmed in Barrymore Seawright Park. You can see that a homeschooling co-op, Austin Forest School, was going by while we were filming that. It's a gorgeous piece of land, and this is a place where I'm actually going to do an entire full-day retreat into the wild with music, meditation, presentations, exploration on April 3rd. If you're interested in coming sun up to sundown for an outdoor experience, some people have said this is like a music festival out in the woods. Small group of people to connect with our music and a few other performers, meditation, like I said. Stringsinthewoods.com. Make sure you're on the email list for stringsinthewoods.com. Go there and click on contact and you can get on the email list. But I'll be announcing that really soon for tickets. So, Garden by the Sea. It was really fun to create this music and film it. And I want to this is now the part 2 of this video where I'm going to go through the piece. And you can stick around or you can come back in about 10 minutes and I'll play it again. But I'm going to go into detail, kind of like a director's cut. I'm going to play the piece and stop it and talk about what I did here and what the influences are. So if you want to stick around, that's what I'm going to do now. And this is something I really enjoy doing. I've got a lot of notes here. I was watching the film, Karen and I watched the film Midnight Sky with George Clooney, who directed it, and he was mentioning how the project just takes on a life of its own. And that's what happens when you write a song or write a piece of music. You have an original intention, and then you see it through to a place where you feel like it's done and you can release it to the world. You could keep going with it and keep making more iterations and being, a perfectionist, but at some point you feel like you're done with it. And so I want to talk with you about the original germ of the idea came out of just a challenge to write melodies that could tell a story just by themselves on the violin without any accompaniment. And how beautiful fiddle music is in that way when you think of Appalachian fiddle music. And by the way, if you want to ask questions, I'll pause occasionally and look, but I can't see unless you're on Friends Attached or you're on Strings Attached. Can't see any of your comments. But there's different kinds of music. There's music melodies can kind of stand on themselves, like Appalachian melodies, melodies that Christmas carols, hymns. They don't have to have anything but just the melody to tell the story, to take you on a journey. The selection of notes take you on a journey, and they don't need anything around them. They stand on their own. A lot of the songs that we sing, right, that have lasted over time, they have a way of telling a story. So I wanted to try to write something like that. And being a violin and a violist, I wanted to try to write something that I could play in my walks out doing strings in the woods. So I started with that Appalachian flavor and I've written a number of melodies. One of them is this jig, and then this is a kind of a waltz. So um, to take 7 notes and create a melody that stands on its own was a fun challenge. It's kind of creating within that limitation. So that's how it started. It was just a challenge to myself. And I remember talking with Karen as like, hey, I was playing on the piano actually. If I repeat this section, does it sound too repetitive? And if you think about the melodies that have survived, like Amazing Grace, Come Thou Font of Every Blessing, they're very simple form and there's a lot of repetition so that the heart can kind of hear the patterns and are able to remember them. So, and Karen was like, no, I think that's great. So as I was writing the melody, getting feedback from her, because I come from a very complex background of writing jazz and being in classical music and hearing really complex forms. But a lot of times, complex music is based on really simple motifs or simple melodies. So that's where the journey started. This is probably back in, yeah, around when the pandemic began in April when I started kind of writing this melody. And here we are. What are we, 9 months later? And so my first thought is, maybe a lot of people don't realize that sometimes it takes a long time, a lot of time goes into writing a full piece of music, and then for an artist to release it. The actual writing of the melody may occur over a few minutes or an hour, but for it to get into the current state that it's in with the full strings and all that, it's taken 9 months and sometimes even longer than that. So I sat down with this, wrote the chord changes, played it a lot of times at Strings in the Woods, and what's today? A week ago on Monday, after being influenced by Hauser, this great cellist from Croatia, and his beautiful videos, they're just cinematic and bring alive this classical music that we all love by the visual images. I thought, I want to do a similar thing. So I sat down at my keyboard here and I thought, well, I think there needs to be an introduction to kind of set the scene. I'm thinking visually, I'm thinking cinematically. Is that a word? And so I had to come up with, not had to, but I wanted to come up with a little intro. And that took me probably a couple hours just to come up with like 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds of music. And so when we listen to that beginning, you'll hear that little orchestral introduction. That's like 2 hours of work to do that. And a lot of attention went into just the placement of the notes around that melody. But the melody itself was something that I just sang. I just followed my ear and thought, what would be a good introduction for this fiddle tune that sounds like it comes right out of Ireland or something, right? So a lot of it's about putting yourself into a place, into a location, into a story, and listening for the sounds that would happen for that story. And then you just sit down and you tinker or you sing and you capture it. And you start from that little germ of a melody and build around that. So that's what I'm going to show you what I did with this piece. So that's the intro, and I just want to show you a couple, just one little Hauser video, so you can see this is one of my inspirations. Before I do that, here is a list of the inspirations for this piece. These are pieces of music or artists that inspired me. So Aaron Copland, Appalachian Spring; Hauser, the cellist from Croatia; Short Trip Home, Joshua Bell, with Edgar Meyer and Jay Unger's Ashokan Farewell; Hard Times Come No More, James Taylor with Yo-Yo Ma; Ravi Shankar, Chants of India; Hildegard von Bingen is an early music vocalist, composer. In Austin, there's a group that celebrates this music. We did a concert with them. So these are the main influences of this particular arrangement of the song that all came together in one way or another to kind of simmer around in my brain, so that when you hear the piece, it's not just one thing. All these things, you can hear all these things there, and I'm going to show you all of these influences. It's kind of cold here. I'm getting cold. Hold on, I'm going to turn on. Actually, let me play the. You have to understand that 15 years ago, it wasn't even the realm of possibility for an instrumental string player to think they could be as famous as a rock star, whereas a lot of these guys have done this now thanks to the internet. Um, People like Hauser, people like um, Simply Three, the list goes on and on. So this has been really exciting for me because I love this kind of music. I love instrumental music. People used to say you got to have a vocalist, you got to have a singer, you got to do covers. All right, let me know if that's too loud. So that's Hauser. I'm going to let it play in the background while I'm talking about the music. How's the mix on that? And that is he's playing, what is he playing? From Pearl Harbor, Hans Zimmer. I just love how the scenery, the nature aspects of it bring alive the music and just bring a lot more of nature. What am I trying to say? A lot of heart to the music. So Hauser videos very much an influence on how I film this. Being in touch with nature, I think people see those images and they feel connected, right, to nature. So what I'm going to do is let's talk a little bit about it. So early music influenced me on this arrangement. Ravi Shankar music influenced me on this. Aaron Copland, Appalachian Spring. The idea of a simple melody telling a story. So in my arrangement, the melody is the source of everything, that everything is happening around. It's not the harmony, and on top of that is a melody. So I'm actually going to go pull up my video and I'm going to play through and just kind of stop and talk, and then after I do that I'll play it again, and maybe after all this talk and insight you'll hear it in a different way. All right, so with my arrangement, I'm going to pull up. This is like the director's cut. I'm talking about the movie like a director. So here's the arrangement essentially. Wrote the melody. Karen put down the chords, really simple chords, on the guitar first, and we went out and filmed it with me playing against the guitar to sync up the violin parts. I had to come back, and the guitar part was already set, so I had to make something interesting out of this piece. I had to make the interest in the story around the already set in stone guitar part, which was really interesting challenge. So you'll hear an opening part with just a little orchestra. The melody comes in alone, like a traditional Appalachian melody. So I'm stating it very simply with just the guitar alone. Then a viola harmony comes in. So we're adding a new thing. It's like, oh, what's that? A new interest, right? And then I add some more strings to it for what we call the B section of the melody. And then I add even some more rhythmic interest, so it feels more like a waltz. You're going to hear that. And then I take the melody up an octave, and so it's almost a different character enters when you go up an octave. But I still keep that Appalachian fiddle flavor to it. And then I add some early music sound to it, which is no vibrato, very plain statement of the melody. With a counter melody under that, you'll hear. And then I bring back the waltz, and then it simmers down, and then we're done. But it's basically the melody is stated 2 times with the orchestration around it giving you the sense of variation. So it's almost like a theme and variations in terms of form. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play the video, and I'll stop and I'll point those parts out to you as well. And again, I'm going to play this without talk at the end here in just a minute. All right. Thank you for being here. I'm going to look over here at Friends Attached. Is there any questions? Love the emotion. All right. Glad to have you guys here. Awesome. Let's play this. Okay, let's get this on. Screen share again. And if I get this thing out of the way, I can see the video. Just waiting for it to move out of the way. Is it this one? Nope. Oh, here we go. All right. So, okay, so again, that whole part is setting the scene. It's like an English countryside. If you listen, if you know music theory, that first part is using what we call a minor four chord. Ah, ba da ba da da. That little melody there, real simple modal flavor, setting the scene. English flavor, kind of Irish sounding, and it's just to set the emotional tone. And then you'll see the next part. The melody is stated very simply. Now we're in America, in the Appalachian Mountains, and it's just guitar and violin. All right, so that's the first part of the melody. Something to note is that I am not a fiddle player who grew up in the Appalachians. So I'm playing these ornaments. I'm playing what I've heard, just by listening to a lot of fiddle music and playing pseudo fiddle player guy over the last 30 years of my musical background. Um, but you'll also hear some double stops. That's where you play two strings at the same time. You'll have ornaments where you're flicking like da 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 da. So those kind of things are real common. They're called ornaments in Irish music and fiddle music. They add to the character, the flavor of the music, so it really sounds like it's from Appalachia. Now we're going to hear the viola coming in underneath. I'm playing the viola as well on this. Oh, it's so cold. All right, so again, we had the viola added. I'm still playing the melody as a kind of a traditional manner, trying to be really sort of pay homage to that traditional flavor. And then some strings were added just a little bit, so we're gradually adding a little more orchestral texture as we go forward to build interest, to build tension. And then this next section gets a little more waltzy. You hear these kind of zh, zh, these like rhythmic brushes of the stroke, of the musical brushstroke. And when I was writing that, I was really thinking about Copeland, because Copeland did his own thing. He took traditional melodies and put them in a context that was very different, but they still sounded true to their original. So let's hear what that sounds like. See if you can hear the Copeland. hear there's some tension notes in there. My mom said earlier that it almost sounded dissonant, and that's actually intentional. If you listen to Copeland, you'll have this very intentional dissonance, but then it resolves. And I'll bring that back in the later. So you just heard it now, and the exact same thing I'm going to bring back. And this is in the accompaniment, not the melody, obviously. So that's the Aaron Copland influence. When I was sitting down to write this, I was thinking like, what would Aaron Copland do against this melody? Okay. All right. So the next section, I go up an octave with the melody, which sort of creates a new character for the melody. But again, I'm playing double stops. And then we have the Ravi Shankar influence, because when I take it up an octave, we've kind of built it up, built the movement, the rhythm, and then it comes down to where it's sort of more peaceful sounding. Like this meditation music I've been listening to, meditating to Chants of India. By the way, all these influences I'm mentioning, all these references, are in the description of this video for you to check out in a playlist on Spotify. So this is the Ravi Shankar Chants of India, which is beautiful, beautiful music. Cellos, strings of India. You'll hear the influence in this next section. What you hear actually is a pedal point. That means one tone being held for a long period of time underneath the melody. So it's do da, na, na. You heard this note in the cellos being held for a long time. That's the tonic, and on top of that's the melody. And then at some point, you're going to hear an early music influence come in where I do a counter melody over that pedal note. Okay? So here we go. This is the Ravi Shankar influence section. Okay, so that last little part, there's a counter melody happening. And when I was writing that section, I thought, I've been listening to this gorgeous Hildegard von Bingen music, which has like counter, like two lines going at the same time over a pedal, and how gorgeous that is. How could I do that with this? So I basically just wrote a melody underneath the fiddle line. And I played this with very little vibrato. I'm going to play you something like that off this playlist, this solo. And you'll hear what the early music sounds like with no vibrato. This very much influenced this section of the So can you hear those beautiful, clear, laser-like tones? There's no vibrato with the left hand happening. So that last section, I kind of did that in an early music fashion, like this. There's just something gorgeous about that pure sound and the harmonics ringing. Yeah, and Hildegard von Bingen vocal music very much influenced that section. Okay, now we're at the last part of the song, and what I do is I bring something back to give the listener a little familiarity. They may not think, oh, I've heard that before, but something in them recognizes, oh, this section's happened before. It could be the gesture of the rhythm. So it's very waltz-like from here to the end. And you'll hear this. So, thank you. That was Garden by the Sea, a new piece that I'm going to be releasing. If you're a member of Friends Attached, then you get to hear it first.
Hey there. Thanks for
turn
watching
that
that
off.
video, The Garden by the Sea. We actually filmed that.
So that was my director's analysis of how I wrote that, what the influences were. We had Copland, we had Hauser. Jay Unger influenced me because he wrote a famous song called Ashokan Farewell that went with the Civil War series by Ken Burns. It's a melody that stands on its own. So this piece is kind of like that. It's a melody that stands on its own without any accompaniment. Hard Times Come No More, James Taylor with Yo-Yo Ma, just the idea of sort of more counterpoint and arrangement happening. Hildegard von Bingen, Ravi Shankar, all of those are the influences, and there's a playlist in here on this video you can click on to explore more of these influences that all went into this one piece of music. Like the whole thing, you start with a melody. You start with, when you start coming up with a melody, you think of the first two notes, and then you go from there. And then from there, it takes on a life of its own, and you build a whole universe around that melody. So for those of you that wonder, like, how does a piece like this come into being? There you go. And then we added the beautiful nature, as Irene is saying, around that. Because this music was written, or this kind of music, the Appalachian folk music, happened out in the woods in nature, right? People that lived in accordance, in cooperation with nature. So that's that, and I'm just gonna play the whole piece through for you to hear. Again, if you want to make some comments, I'm reading on Friends Attached. If you're not a member of Friends Attached, you can do that at here.stringsattached.org. Become a member of Friends Attached. It's for our most passionate followers. That's you, right? I know there's a bunch of you watching right now. We're doing a VIP bundle contest, which is a special package of things like a poster, this poster right here, signed by me and Karen. Some collector's items like this incredible CD that has people like Grammy Award-winning Sean Colvin on it, Eliza Gilkison. It's only available through me. It's beautiful artwork. We're going to give away a VIP bundle, and this is day 9 of that. By watching this video, all you have to do is comment below something about it. I would appreciate you, like a sentence or two, what you enjoyed about it, what was interesting about it, and that is one of the steps to being active for the contest. You have to comment on the other 10 posts. This is day 9. And I explained at the beginning how to do that. So we're going to play Garden by the Sea now, fully without me talking. And with everything that I've said, let that sink into your consciousness and see if you can notice some of the things that I was talking about as you listen to it. Or you can just put headphones on and not think of anything and just let the music wash over you. When I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about today's birthday boy, one of the founders of Steely Dan, Donald Fagen, who has influenced me greatly as a composer and jazz musician. So stick around if you want to talk a little bit about Steely Dan. What are your favorite Steely Dan pieces? But once again, here's the third playing of Garden by the Sea, a new piece of music I'm releasing to the world. It won't be out on Spotify for probably another week or so, but you can get it straight from me right now Actually, tonight I'll have it up at Bandcamp. You can listen to it. You can watch the video if you're a Friends Attached member. All right. So here's again Garden by the Sea, and then I'll be right back to talk to you about Steely Dan.
Hey there.
All right. Let me close this down. It's nice reading all of your comments. Audrey, how you doing? Heather, good to see you. Says the orchestration is excellent. It warms the heart. Yeah, I spent a day doing the orchestration. For those of you who don't know, I played in the Austin Lyric Opera Orchestra for 27 years. So being around in the viola section, all of that incredible orchestration was just a learning experience, just absorbing that, being in that. And so my ear is attuned to possibilities in the orchestration world. And what else? What else? I'm making comments. I'm responding to comments. If you want to, if you're watching this, there may be different places you're watching this. Um, Friends Attached. Go to Friends Attached on Facebook or Strings Attached. But right now I'm looking at Friends Attached. If you want if you want your comment to be seen. And there's something I want to mention about my own personal journey with music that it's coming back to. That it's very interesting that I went through a period of not really believing that instrumental music was enough, that I had to play with vocalists, that I had to do shows, tribute shows with vocalists here in Austin, even though I played in the Austin Under Cop Orchestra. But I began to believe, because I went through a period, I had to raise my kids, and instrumental music that I wrote at the time did not provide enough income for me to raise my children. So I went into figuring out what kind of music could I do that would pay the bills. And that led me off into creating Strings Attached and doing all these different collaborations with singer-songwriters, which I love. But what's really cool is, like I said, 10 years ago, there was no sense that somebody like me could have a career doing instrumental music unless I wanted to be a film composer. But now there's people like Hauser and just a bunch of instrumental musicians out there, two cellos that fill stadiums for people to hear instrumental music. And it's a lot because they're able to make these videos. Oh, there's the piano guys, I think. Yeah, they're huge. They don't have vocalists.